Hello, and welcome to our channel, Stories with Silas. We hope you enjoy watching.
The Sheikh's phone rang for the third time as his desperate eyes locked on Maya, $500 million about to vanish if she didn't answer in flawless Arabic within the next 60 seconds. She was a waitress carrying a tray of champagne flutes, not a translator, but his trembling hand thrust the device toward her anyway, and every person in Manhattan's most exclusive restaurant watched her decide whether to save a stranger's empire or protect her own survival. Before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and comment where in the world you're watching from. Let's go. The silence that fell over the Meridian, one of Manhattan's most exclusive restaurants, was absolute. Waiters paused mid-stride, diners looked up from their plates, and the soft jazz trio playing in the corner seemed to fade into nothing. All attention turned to table 12, where a distinguished Middle Eastern gentleman in an impeccably tailored charcoal suit stood abruptly, his phone clutched in one trembling hand, his face pale with panic. His voice, usually commanding and confident, cracked with desperation as he looked around the dining room. "Please," he called out, his accent thick with urgency. "Does anyone here speak Arabic? I need help. Now." No one moved. Wealthy patrons in designer clothes exchanged uncomfortable glances, some returning to their meals, others whispering among themselves. The maitre d' rushed over, attempting to calm the situation, but the gentleman waved him off, his eyes scanning the room with increasing desperation. His phone buzzed insistently in his hand. In 60 seconds, he would lose everything. Maya Richardson had never imagined her linguistics degree would matter in a moment like this. She was 24, working double shifts at the Meridian to chip away at her mountain of student loan debt, while living in a cramped studio apartment in Queens with 2 roommates and a temperamental radiator that only worked when it felt like it. She had a younger brother, Jason, back home in Ohio, who dreamed of becoming a doctor, and Maya sent money home whenever she could to help with his college expenses. But this was life in New York City, where dreams came with a price tag that never seemed to get smaller. The Meridian was her lifeline. Perched on the 52nd floor of a gleaming tower in Midtown Manhattan, the restaurant was known for its fusion of Mediterranean and American cuisine, its floor-to-ceiling windows offering breathtaking views of the city skyline, and its clientele who thought nothing of spending thousands on a single meal. The staff wore elegant black uniforms with crisp white shirts, and every employee was trained to standards that would make military sergeants proud. Head chef Antoine Rousseau had once worked at a 3-Michelin-star restaurant in Paris, and rumor had it that everyone from tech billionaires to Hollywood A-listers dined here under aliases and baseball caps. Maya had fought hard for this position. She arrived 2 hours before every shift to memorize menu changes, polish glassware until it sparkled like diamonds under the crystal chandeliers, and study the preferences of regular guests. She knew that Mr. Chen from Table 7 always ordered his steak medium rare with no salt, that Mrs. Vanderbilt preferred her wine at exactly 58 degrees, and that the investment banker at Table 3 tipped poorly but was always polite. Details mattered. Excellence mattered. Every smile, every gesture, every word had to be perfect. What set Maya apart wasn't just her work ethic. During her undergraduate years at Ohio State, she'd fallen in love with languages, particularly Arabic. She'd spent a semester abroad in Jordan, another summer studying Egyptian dialect in Cairo, and had even worked as a part-time translator for a local community center in Columbus. But in New York, her linguistic skills gathered dust while she balanced plates and poured wine. Nobody cared that she could navigate complex Arabic grammar or switch between dialects. They cared that their water glass stayed full. Tonight was supposed to be routine. Table 12 had been occupied by Sheikh Khalid al-Mansouri, a 45-year-old real estate investor from Abu Dhabi who'd arrived an hour earlier with an associate. They'd ordered the Mediterranean platter and spoke in hushed, serious tones throughout dinner. Maya had served them efficiently, professionally invisible, exactly as trained. But now, as his desperate plea echoed through the restaurant and his phone continued to ring, Maya felt something shift inside her. She glanced at the phone in his hand, at the anxiety etched across his distinguished features, at the other diners who'd already dismissed his problem as not their concern. She'd spent 4 years learning Arabic. Maybe, just maybe, those years were about to matter. Maya's heart hammered in her chest as she stood frozen near table 8, a tray of empty champagne flutes balanced perfectly in her hands. Every instinct screamed at her to stay quiet, to remain invisible, to let someone else handle this crisis. The Meridian had strict protocols about staff interactions with VIP guests, especially in moments of distress. Getting involved could mean overstepping boundaries, could mean risking the job she desperately needed. But Sheikh Khalid's phone was still ringing. She could see the screen from where she stood, could see the name flashing across it in Arabic script. The call was from Cairo. She recognized the Egyptian country code instantly. "Please," the sheikh called out again, his voice cracking with a vulnerability that seemed impossible for someone who commanded such presence. "Anyone, I'm begging you. This call, it cannot wait." The maitre d', Vincent Laurent, a thin Frenchman with silver hair and perpetually pursed lips, attempted to guide the sheikh back to his seat. "Sir, if you could please lower your voice, we can arrange for a translator service to call you back within the hour." "Within the hour?" Sheikh Khalid's eyes widened with something close to horror. "You don't understand. This deal, this phone call, it's worth $500 million. $500 million. If I don't answer this in Arabic, if I don't speak to these investors right now, everything is finished. Years of work, gone." Maya watched as his associate, a nervous younger man in a navy suit, whispered frantically in English. "Khalid, we can reschedule, we can explain." "No!" The sheikh's voice boomed across the restaurant. "The contracts must be signed tonight. Cairo time is already past midnight. If they don't hear from me in the next 30 seconds, they will assume I'm not serious. They will walk away and take their investment to our competitors in Dubai." The phone continued ringing. 15 seconds left, maybe less. Maya calculated the odds in her head. She could speak Egyptian Arabic fluently, could navigate business terminology from her translation work back in Ohio. But could she handle a $500 million conversation? Could she risk embarrassing herself, the restaurant, and this desperate man if she made a mistake? Her mother's voice echoed in her mind, words from a childhood spent in a working-class neighborhood where people helped each other because that's what you did. "Maya, baby, if you have the power to help someone and you don't use it, what's the point of having that power at all?" She set down her tray. "Excuse me," Maya said, her voice steady, despite the adrenaline flooding her system. She stepped forward, approaching table 12 with the same confident posture she used when presenting expensive bottles of wine. "Sir, I speak Arabic." Every head in the restaurant turned toward her. Vincent's face went white with shock. The other servers stopped mid-motion, stunned that one of their own had just inserted herself into a VIP's crisis. Maya ignored them all, her eyes locked on Sheikh Khalid. He stared at her as though she'd appeared out of thin air, his expression shifting from desperation to confusion to something that might have been hope. "You speak Arabic," he repeated, his accent making the words sound almost like a prayer. "What dialect?" "Egyptian," Maya replied, switching seamlessly to Arabic as she spoke. "I studied at the American University in Cairo and worked as a translator for Egyptian business clients. I'm fluent in modern standard Arabic and the Cairo dialect." Sheikh Khalid's phone buzzed again, the final ring before it would go to voicemail. His hand shook as he looked at Maya, then at the phone, then back at Maya. She could see the calculation happening behind his eyes. Could he trust this young waitress in a black uniform with his entire fortune? Did he have any other choice? "The call is from my investors in Cairo," he said rapidly, still in Arabic, testing her comprehension. "They're finalizing contracts for a real estate development, luxury hotels on the Red Sea coast." My translator missed his flight from London. I need someone who can understand complex business terms, who can convey my exact meaning, who won't make mistakes that could cost me everything. Maya nodded, her mind already switching into translator mode, the same focused state she'd entered during her most challenging interpretation sessions. "I understand. I'm ready." Sheikh Khalid took a deep breath. Then, with no other options and no time left, he handed her his phone. Maya's fingers closed around the sleek device, its weight somehow both insignificant and impossibly heavy. She could feel the warmth from Sheikh Khalid's palm still radiating from the metal case. The screen displayed a name in Arabic script: Ahmed Farouk, Chairman, Red Sea Development Group. One more second, and the call would disconnect. She pressed the answer button and brought the phone to her ear, her voice instantly shifting into the smooth, professional Egyptian Arabic she'd perfected during her summer in Cairo. "Assalamu alaikum, Mr. Farouk. This is Sheikh Khalid Al-Mansouri's office calling. Thank you for your patience." The voice on the other end was gruff, impatient, tinged with the distinctive Cairo accent that marked old money and older families. "Wa alaikum assalam. Who is this? Where is Sheikh Khalid? We have been waiting for 20 minutes. Our legal team is ready to finalize the contracts, but if the Sheikh cannot be bothered to answer his phone personally, perhaps he is not the serious partner we believed him to be." Maya's mind raced. She glanced at Sheikh Khalid, who watched her with an expression caught between terror and hope. His associate leaned in, trying to hear the conversation, while Vincent, the maître d', hovered nearby, clearly torn between maintaining restaurant decorum and witnessing what might be the most unusual situation in the Meridian's history. "Mr. Farouk," Maya continued, her tone respectful but firm, switching effortlessly into the formal business register she'd learned from her translation work. "Sheikh Khalid is here and deeply committed to this partnership. Due to unexpected circumstances with his translator, I'm facilitating this conversation. The Sheikh asks that you please proceed with the contract discussion. He's ready to address any final terms." There was a pause. Maya could hear papers rustling in the background, voices murmuring in Arabic. She recognized other dialects in the mix, Syrian perhaps, and Lebanese. A consortium of investors then, not just Egyptians. The stakes were even higher than she'd realized. "Very well," Farouk said finally, "but we have concerns about Clause 7 in the financing agreement. The profit-sharing structure for the Hurghada property gives Sheikh Khalid's group 60%, while our consortium receives only 40%. This is not acceptable. We propose a 50-50 split, with provisions for performance bonuses based on occupancy rates in the first 3 years. Maya immediately turned to Sheikh Khalid and translated rapidly in English, her voice low enough that other diners couldn't overhear, but clear enough for him to understand every word. "They want to renegotiate Clause 7. They're pushing for 50-50 profit sharing instead of the 60-40 split, with performance bonuses tied to occupancy rates." Sheikh Khalid's jaw tightened. He shook his head firmly and whispered back, "No. The 60-40 split is non-negotiable. We're providing the land, the infrastructure connections, and taking on the majority of the construction risk. However, I can agree to the performance bonus structure if occupancy exceeds 85% in year 1. That shows good faith." Maya nodded and switched back to Arabic, her voice carrying the Sheikh's authority as though it were her own. "Mr. Farouk, Sheikh Khalid appreciates your perspective, but the 60-40 structure reflects the significant infrastructure and land assets his group is contributing to the project. However, To demonstrate his commitment to this partnership's success, he's willing to accept performance bonuses for your consortium if occupancy rates exceed 85% in the first year. This aligns both parties' interests toward the project's success. She could hear the slight shift in Farouk's tone, the grudging respect that came through even across the phone line. 85% is ambitious for a new property. What about 80%? Maya glanced at Sheikh Khalid, translated quickly. The sheikh considered for a moment, then nodded. 82% final offer. Mr. Farouk, Maya said smoothly, the sheikh proposes 82% as the performance threshold. This is a fair compromise that reflects realistic market conditions while maintaining high standards. Another pause, more murmuring. Then, we accept. What about the timeline for phase 2 of the development? And so it went. For the next 20 minutes, Maya stood in the middle of the Meridian's dining room, translating complex real estate terminology, navigating delicate negotiations, and facilitating a deal that represented more money than she would earn in 10 lifetimes. She discussed construction timelines, environmental permits, staffing projections, and marketing strategies. She translated Sheikh Khalid's concerns about currency fluctuations and Farouk's requirements for quarterly progress reports. The restaurant remained eerily quiet. Other diners had abandoned any pretense of eating, watching this young waitress conduct high-stakes international business negotiations in a language most of them couldn't understand. The jazz trio had stopped playing entirely. Even the kitchen staff peeked through the service doors, sensing that something extraordinary was happening. Maya's Arabic flowed naturally, her years of study finally finding purpose beyond textbooks and classroom exercises. She caught nuances in Farouk's tone, adjusted her formality level to match his, and even threw in a classical Arabic proverb about partnership that made the Egyptian investor chuckle appreciatively. Finally, after what felt like hours, but was only 23 minutes according to the call timer, Ahmed Farouk's voice softened with satisfaction. Sheikh Khalid, your translator is exceptional. She understands not just the language, but the business. Very impressive. I believe we have reached an agreement on all major points. Our legal team will draft the revised contracts tonight and send them to you by morning, Cairo time. We look forward to building something magnificent together on the Red Sea coast. Maya felt a surge of relief wash through her body. She translated Farouk's words to Sheikh Khalid, whose entire posture transformed before her eyes. The tension that had gripped his shoulders melted away, replaced by something that looked almost like joy. His associate beside him let out a breath he'd apparently been holding for the entire conversation. Mr. Farouk, Maya said in Arabic, her voice carrying Sheikh Khalid's gratitude, the Sheikh is honored by your partnership and your faith in this project. He looks forward to receiving the revised contracts and to a long and prosperous relationship between your organizations. Ma'a salama, and may this venture bring blessings to both our families. Ma salama, Farouk replied, and the line went dead. For a moment, Maya stood completely still, the phone still pressed to her ear, her heart pounding so hard she could hear it in her temples. She'd just facilitated a $500 million real estate deal. She, Maya Richardson from Columbus, Ohio, who'd been worried about making rent next month, and whether she could afford to send her brother money for textbooks. The silence in the restaurant shattered as Sheikh Khalid let out a sound that was half laugh, half shout of triumph. He stood abruptly, his chair scraping against the polished floor, and stared at Maya with an expression of absolute disbelief. "You did it," he said in English, his accent thick with emotion. "By Allah, you actually did it." Then something unexpected happened. One person started clapping, then another, then the entire restaurant erupted into applause. Wealthy diners in $1,000 suits and designer dresses stood from their tables, applauding this young waitress who just demonstrated that sometimes the most valuable skills come from the most unexpected places. The jazz trio joined in, the drummer doing a small flourish on his cymbals. Even the kitchen staff emerged, Chef Rousseau leading them, all clapping and cheering. Maya felt her cheeks flush with heat. She handed the phone back to Sheikh Khalid, suddenly very aware that she was still wearing her server's uniform, still technically on the clock, still supposed to be refilling water glasses and taking orders for dessert. "I'm glad I could help, sir," she managed, her voice barely audible over the applause. But Sheikh Khalid wasn't finished. He took the phone, set it on the table, and then did something that made Vincent the maitre d' nearly faint with shock. He pulled out his wallet, a slim leather affair that probably cost more than Maya's monthly salary, and extracted a thick stack of bills. $100 bills, she realized. Lots of them. "How much do I owe you?" he asked, his voice serious now, his eyes locked on hers. "Name your price. You just saved my life's work. You deserve to be compensated properly." Maya looked at the money in his hand, probably thousands of dollars, enough to pay off a significant chunk of her student loans, enough to help Jason with an entire semester of medical school, enough to finally fix that broken radiator in her apartment. The practical part of her brain screamed at her to name a number, to accept this windfall that had literally fallen into her lap. But another part of her, the part that had studied Arabic because she loved the language's beauty and complexity, the part that had helped elderly immigrants at the community center fill out forms for free, the part that her mother had raised to believe that kindness didn't always require payment, that part spoke first. She smiled, the tension finally draining from her shoulders. "Just a good tip, sir." The restaurant fell silent again, but this time it was a different kind of silence. It was the silence of people witnessing something they'd rarely seen in Manhattan's elite circles, someone turning down easy money because helping had been reward enough. Sheikh Khalid stared at her for a long moment, his expression unreadable. His associate whispered something in Arabic that Maya caught. "She's either very noble or very foolish." The sheikh ignored him, still studying Maya's face as though trying to understand a puzzle he'd never encountered before. "A good tip," he repeated slowly. Then his face broke into a genuine smile, the kind that transformed his entire countenance from intimidating businessman to someone almost grandfatherly. "You know, miss, I don't even know your name." "Maya," she said quietly. "Maya Richardson." "Miss Richardson," he continued, "I have met many people in my 45 years. Bankers, lawyers, politicians, business partners from every corner of the world. But I have never met anyone quite like you." He folded the stack of bills carefully and placed them back in his wallet, then reached into his jacket pocket and pulled out a business card. Not just any business card, Maya noticed. This one was heavy cardstock with raised gold lettering, the kind that screamed wealth and power before you even read what was printed on it. "I respect your integrity," Sheikh Khalid said, handing her the card. "But please, take this. Tomorrow morning I want you to call my office. I have a proposition for you, Miss Richardson, one that I think will interest you very much." Maya took the card, her fingers trembling slightly as she read the elegant script. "Sheikh Khalid Al-Mansouri, CEO, Al-Mansouri International Holdings." Below that, an Abu Dhabi address, a New York City address, and a phone number, with what looked like a private extension. "I don't understand," she said softly, looking up from the card. "A proposition?" "Tomorrow," he repeated, his smile mysterious. "Call at 9 a.m., sharp New York time. Ask for me directly." He paused, then added in Arabic, "Trust me, Habibti. Your life is about to change." Before Maya could respond, Vincent, the maitre d', appeared at her elbow, his face still slightly pale, but attempting to maintain his professional composure. "Miss Richardson, if I might have a word." His tone suggested it wasn't really a request. Sheikh Khalid waved her away graciously, already turning back to his associate to discuss something in rapid Arabic. Maya followed Vincent across the dining room, very aware that every eye in the restaurant was still on her. The other servers parted like the Red Sea as she passed, their expressions ranging from amazement to envy to confusion. Vincent led her to a quiet corner near the kitchen entrance, his hands clasped behind his back in that particular way that meant he was deeply uncomfortable, but trying not to show it. "Miss Richardson," he began, his French accent more pronounced than usual, "what you did tonight was highly irregular." Maya's stomach sank. Here it came, the reprimand, possibly the termination. She'd overstepped, violated protocol, inserted herself into a guest's private business. Never mind that she'd saved the day, the Meridian had rules. "I am aware, sir," she said quietly, keeping her eyes lowered in the submissive posture that restaurant hierarchy demanded. "I apologize for any disruption." "However," Vincent interrupted, and Maya's eyes snapped up in surprise. Was that a smile trying to break through his normally stern expression? "It was also the most extraordinary display of professional competence I have witnessed in my 23 years in this industry. Sheikh Al-Mansouri is one of our most valued clients, and you just ensured he will remain so for years to come." Maya blinked, uncertain she'd heard correctly. "So I'm not fired?" Vincent actually did smile then, a small, genuine expression that transformed his usually austere face. "Fired? Miss Richardson, every guest in this dining room just watched you demonstrate exactly what the Meridian stands for: excellence, grace under pressure, and the unexpected depth of talent we cultivate in our staff. Chef Rousseau has already asked me to send you to his office after your shift. I suspect you're about to become something of a legend here." Relief flooded through Maya's body so intensely she felt momentarily dizzy. She steadied herself against the wall, laughing shakily. "I was so sure you were going to let me go." "On the contrary," Vincent said, his tone turning businesslike again, "though I must insist that in the future you inform management before inserting yourself into guest situations. Protocol exists for a reason." "Yes, sir. Absolutely, sir." "Now then," he continued, glancing back toward the dining room where normal service was slowly resuming. "Table 5 needs their dessert order taken, Table 9 requested their check 15 minutes ago, and Table 14 just seated. Back to work, Miss Richardson." Maya nodded, tucking Sheikh Khalid's business card carefully into her apron pocket. As she returned to the floor, she caught sight of her reflection in one of the massive windows overlooking the Manhattan skyline. Same uniform, same face, but something fundamental had shifted. She'd spent 4 years wondering if her linguistics degree was worth the debt, worth the sacrifice, worth the late nights studying grammar and dialects, while her friends pursued more practical careers. Tonight, in 60 seconds, she'd gotten her answer. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Guests at nearly every table stopped her to offer congratulations or to ask questions about where she'd learned Arabic. The older woman at table 8 slipped her an extra $100 tip along with a whispered, "You reminded me why I came to this city 50 years ago. Never forget what you did tonight." The investment banker at table 3, usually stingy with his tips, left her $200 and a note that read simply, "Impressive." But it was table 12 that Maya kept glancing toward as she worked. Sheikh Khalid and his associate finished their meal, ordered dessert, and seemed to be in deep discussion about something. Several times she caught the sheikh watching her as she served other tables, his expression thoughtful, calculating in a way that made her both nervous and curious. When they finally prepared to leave, nearly 2 hours after the phone call, Sheikh Khalid stopped by the service station where Maya was processing credit card payments. His associate hovered nearby, clearly ready to depart, but the sheikh took his time. "Miss Richardson," Sheikh Khalid said, his voice low enough that only she could hear, "do you know why I'm offering you this opportunity?" Maya shook her head, her fingers still hovering over the credit card terminal. "Not really, sir. I mean, I helped with the phone call, but—" "You did more than help," he interrupted gently. "In my culture, we have a saying, the tongue of experience says more than the pen of scholars. You could have stayed silent tonight. You could have let me fail. Instead, you risked your job, your reputation to help a stranger. That kind of courage is rare. That kind of character cannot be taught." He paused, then added with a slight smile, "And your Arabic is better than my last 3 translators combined. 9 a.m. tomorrow. Don't forget." With that, he nodded graciously and swept out of the restaurant, his associates scrambling to keep pace. Maya watched them disappear into the elevator bank, her mind spinning with questions. What kind of proposition? A job? A referral? Something else entirely? By the time her shift ended at midnight, Maya's feet ached and her mind felt like it had run a marathon. She changed out of her uniform in the staff locker room, where 3 other servers immediately surrounded her, all talking at once. "Maya, that was insane!" exclaimed Christina, a fellow waitress who'd been at the Meridian for 5 years. "Do you know who that was? Sheikh Khalid al-Mansouri is worth like $3 billion. $3 billion. "What did he say to you at the end?" asked Marcus, one of the bartenders. "We saw him talking to you at the station." "And what's on that business card?" Christina added, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Are you going to call him?" Maya carefully deflected their questions, exhausted and overwhelmed. She promised to tell them everything once she knew more, then escaped into the cool November night. The subway ride back to Queens gave her time to process the evening's events. She pulled out Sheikh Khalid's business card and studied it under the flickering train lights, running her thumb over the raised gold lettering. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jason. "Hey sis, how was work? I got an A on my organic chemistry exam. Thanks for the textbook money." Maya smiled, typing back, "That's amazing. Proud of you. Work was interesting. I'll call you tomorrow and tell you about it." She arrived at her apartment building just after 1 a.m., climbing the 3 flights of stairs to the cramped studio she shared with 2 roommates, Priya and Deshawn. Both were still awake, Priya studying for her nursing exam at the tiny kitchen table, while Deshawn worked on graphic design projects on his laptop from the couch that doubled as his bed. "You're late," Priya said without looking up from her textbook. "Long shift?" "You could say that." Maya dropped her bag and collapsed into the only chair, suddenly feeling the full weight of exhaustion. "I think I might have just had the weirdest, most incredible night of my life." That got their attention. Deshawn closed his laptop, Priya set down her highlighter, and both turned to stare at her expectantly. "What happened?" they asked in unison. So Maya told them. About Sheikh Khalid's panic, about the $500 million phone call, about speaking Arabic for 23 minutes while Manhattan's elite watched in silence, about turning down thousands in cash, about the business card currently burning a hole in her pocket. When she finished, neither of her roommates spoke for a long moment. Then Deshawn let out a low whistle. "Girl, you just met a billionaire and basically saved his entire career. Do you understand how crazy that is? And he gave you his private number?" Priya added, her eyes huge behind her glasses. "Maya, this is like something out of a movie." "What do you think he wants?" "I don't know," Maya admitted, pulling out the card again and staring at it. "He said to call at 9 a.m. He has a proposition for me." "A proposition," Deshawn repeated, his tone skeptical. "Maya, please tell me you're not naive enough to think this is just about your language skills." Maya felt a flash of irritation. "He's not like that. You didn't see him, Deshawn. This was about business, about respect. He looked at me like I mattered. Not as a waitress, not as someone beneath him, but as someone who'd done something valuable." I'm just saying be careful, Deshawn said, though his tone softened. Rich people don't usually hand out business cards to service workers unless they want something. Maybe what he wants is someone trustworthy who speaks Egyptian Arabic, Priya suggested diplomatically. I mean, his regular translator screwed up, right? Maybe he needs a backup. They talked for another hour, speculating about possibilities, debating whether Maya should call or not, discussing what she should wear if he asked her to come to his office. Finally, exhausted, they all agreed to sleep on it. Priya retreated to the bedroom they shared, while Deshawn unfolded his couch bed and Maya climbed up to the loft space above the kitchen that served as her room, really just a mattress on a platform with a curtain for privacy. Maya barely slept. Every time she closed her eyes, she replayed the evening's events, heard Sheikh Khalid's voice thanking her, saw the applause rippling through the restaurant. She checked her phone obsessively, watching the minutes tick toward morning. At 6:30, she gave up on sleep entirely and climbed down from her loft. She showered in the cramped bathroom, carefully selecting an outfit that struck a balance between professional and not trying too hard. Dark jeans, a cream blouse, and the blazer she'd bought for job interviews 2 years ago. She French-braided her dark hair and applied minimal makeup, then stared at her reflection in the foggy mirror. "You've got this," she whispered to herself. "It's just a phone call." But her hands shook as she made coffee. By 8:30, she was pacing the apartment's tiny living room, phone in hand, business card in the other. Priya had already left for her clinical rotation at the hospital. Deshawn emerged from his couch bed, rubbing sleep from his eyes. "You making the call?" he asked, his earlier skepticism replaced by genuine concern. "In 30 minutes, Maya confirmed, her voice tight with anxiety. "Want me to stay?" "For moral support?" She considered it, then shook her head. "No, I think I need to do this alone. But thank you." Deshawn squeezed her shoulder. "Good luck, Maya. Whatever happens, you did something amazing last night. Don't forget that." He grabbed his gym bag and headed out, leaving her alone with her thoughts and the ticking clock. At 8:58, Maya sat on the couch, phone in hand, Sheikh Khalid's number already dialed, but not yet called. She took 3 deep breaths, the way her mother had taught her before big moments. Then, at exactly 9 a.m., she pressed the call button. The phone rang once, twice. On the third ring, a crisp female voice answered in English with a British accent. "Al-Mansouri International Holdings, New York office. How may I direct your call?" "Good morning," Maya said, proud that her voice came out steady. "My name is Maya Richardson. Sheikh Khalid asked me to call at 9 a.m. He said to ask for him directly." There was a brief pause, the sound of typing, then, "Ah, yes, Miss Richardson. The Sheikh has been expecting your call. Please hold while I transfer you." Classical Arabic music played for perhaps 15 seconds. Then the line clicked, and Sheikh Khalid's familiar voice came through, warm and energetic. "Miss Richardson. Right on time. I appreciate punctuality. Did you sleep well?" "Honestly, sir? Not really," Maya admitted with a small laugh. "I've been wondering all night what this proposition might be." He chuckled. "Direct, I like that. Very well, let me not keep you in suspense any longer. Miss Richardson, I want to offer you a position with Al-Mansouri International Holdings as my personal Arabic translator and cultural liaison." Maya's breath caught in her throat. She'd expected maybe a referral, perhaps occasional freelance work, but a full position. I don't know what to say, sir." "Let me tell you what the position entails," he continued, his tone becoming more businesslike. "I travel frequently between New York, Abu Dhabi, Dubai, and Cairo for various business ventures. Real estate development, technology investments, hospitality ventures. I need someone who can not only translate Arabic to English and vice versa, but who understands the cultural nuances, the business etiquette, the subtle meanings that can make or break deals. Someone with discretion intelligence and integrity. What about your previous translator? Maya asked, then immediately worried she'd overstepped. I'm sorry, I don't mean to. A fair question, Sheikh Khalid interrupted. My previous translator was competent with language, but lacked something crucial: judgment. Last night you demonstrated not just linguistic ability, but the capacity to think on your feet, to navigate complex negotiations, and to maintain composure under extraordinary pressure. These are rare qualities, Miss Richardson. Maya's mind raced. What would the salary be? $90,000 annually to start, he said matter-of-factly, as though this were a perfectly normal figure, plus comprehensive health benefits, travel expenses covered, and performance bonuses. You would work directly under my supervision, accompanying me to meetings, handling correspondence, and serving as my primary translator for all Arabic business matters. $90,000. Maya had to grip the couch cushion to steady herself. She currently made $32,000 at the Meridian, barely enough to cover her portion of rent and send money home to Jason. $90,000 would mean no more double shifts, no more choosing between buying groceries and paying her electric bill, no more anxiety attacks at 3 a.m. about student loan payments. There is, however, one requirement, Sheikh Khalid continued. The position begins immediately. I leave for Abu Dhabi in 3 days for a 2-week trip. I need you to come with me. I understand this is sudden, and I'm willing to cover any expenses related to your transition, breaking your lease if necessary, storage for your belongings, whatever you need. 3 days. Maya's head spun. Leave her apartment, her roommates, her job at the Meridian, fly to the Middle East with a man she'd met less than 24 hours ago. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was insane, that she should ask for time to think, that she should research the company, verify everything, proceed cautiously. But another part of her, the part that had moved to New York City with $700 and a dream, the part that had taught herself Arabic through sheer determination, the part that had answered that phone call last night when she could have stayed silent. That part knew exactly what her answer would be. Yes, Maya heard herself say, her voice strong and clear. I accept your offer, Sheikh Khalid. I'll be ready in 3 days. There was a moment of silence on the line, and Maya wondered if she'd made a terrible mistake by answering so quickly. Maybe she should have pretended to deliberate, should have asked for time to consider, should have played it cool like a savvy negotiator. But then Sheikh Khalid laughed, a genuine sound of pleasure and approval. Excellent. I had hoped you would say yes, but I wasn't certain. You continue to surprise me, Miss Richardson. My assistant, Caroline, will email you within the hour with all the necessary documents, employment contracts, travel itineraries, visa information, and contact details for my team. She'll also arrange for a company credit card to cover your immediate expenses, professional wardrobe, luggage, anything you need for the transition. A company credit card? Maya repeated, still trying to process everything. You'll be representing Al Mansouri International Holdings, he explained. You need to look the part. Don't worry about costs. Caroline will guide you through everything. Welcome to the team, Miss Richardson. I'll see you at JFK Airport on Thursday morning, 7 a.m. sharp. The call ended, and Maya sat frozen on the couch, phone still pressed to her ear, trying to comprehend what had just happened. She'd accepted a $90,000 job. She was going to Abu Dhabi in 3 days. She was going to quit the Meridian. Her entire life had just pivoted on a single word. Yes. Her phone buzzed almost immediately with an email notification. Caroline Bennett, Executive Assistant to Sheikh Khalid Al-Mansouri. The email contained detailed attachments, a formal employment offer letter, benefits documentation, a non-disclosure agreement, travel arrangements for their Abu Dhabi trip, and instructions for obtaining her UAE visa on an expedited basis. Maya spent the next hour reading through everything, her hands trembling with a mixture of excitement and terror. The offer letter made it official. $90,000 annually, comprehensive health and dental coverage, 3 weeks paid vacation, performance bonuses up to 20% of base salary, and a benefits package that included things she'd never even considered like life insurance and a 401k match. At the bottom of Caroline's email was a personal note. "Welcome to the Al-Mansouri family, Maya. I know this is overwhelming, but you're going to do wonderfully. If you need anything, and I mean anything, don't hesitate to call me directly. My personal cell is below. P.S. The Sheikh is tough but fair, and he doesn't hire people he doesn't believe in. He clearly believes in you." Maya felt tears prick her eyes. She thought about calling her mother back in Columbus, but it was still too early, and besides, she needed to figure out how to explain this without sounding completely insane. Instead, she texted Jason, "Call me when you're out of class. I have news. Big news." Then she called the Meridian and asked to speak with Vincent. When he came on the line, his voice carried its usual formality. "Miss Richardson, I hope you're not calling to say you're ill. We have a full reservation booked tonight. Vincent, I need to give my notice. I'm resigning effective immediately." The silence stretched so long, Maya thought the call had dropped. Finally, "I see. May I ask why?" "I've accepted a position as a translator and cultural liaison for an international holdings company. I'm leaving for Abu Dhabi on Thursday." Another pause, then, surprisingly, Vincent's formal tone softened. "The Sheikh made you an offer." "Yes, sir." "And you accepted?" "Yes, sir." Vincent sighed, but it wasn't disappointed. It sounded almost proud. "Miss Richardson, in all my years managing this restaurant, I have seen exactly 3 servers leave us for opportunities that genuinely changed their lives. You're about to become the 4th. Congratulations. You've earned this." Maya felt relief wash over her. She'd been afraid of burning bridges, of leaving Vincent and Chef Rousseau in a difficult position. "Thank you, Vincent. I'm sorry for the short notice. I know it's unprofessional." "Nonsense," he interrupted. "When opportunity knocks this loudly, you answer immediately. You don't wait for a convenient time. I'll inform Chef Rousseau and handle the scheduling. You focus on your new career." He paused, then added, "And Maya, whatever you did last night, you showed everyone in that dining room what true excellence looks like. Don't ever forget your worth." The call ended, and Maya sat back against the couch, overwhelmed by emotions she couldn't quite name. Relief, excitement, terror, gratitude. In less than 24 hours, her entire life had transformed from paycheck to paycheck survival to something she couldn't even fully comprehend yet. Her phone rang. Jason's name flashed on the screen. She answered with a slightly shaky laugh. "Hey, little brother. You're going to think I'm making this up." "You're freaking me out, Maya. What's going on?" So she told him everything, from Sheikh Khalid's panic to the phone call to the job offer she'd accepted 2 hours ago. When she finished, Jason was silent for so long she checked to make sure the call hadn't dropped. "Jason, I'm here," he said, his voice thick with emotion. Maya, do you realize what this means? You don't have to send me money anymore. You can actually start paying off your loans. You can get a decent apartment. You can stop working yourself to death." "I can help you more with medical school," Maya corrected gently. "That's not changing, Jace." The next 3 days passed in a blur of activity that left Maya feeling like she'd stepped into someone else's life. Caroline proved to be a godsend, handling everything with calm efficiency. She arranged for a professional shopping service to take Maya to Bloomingdale's, where they assembled a wardrobe appropriate for international business travel. Tailored blazers, elegant dresses, professional slacks, and even a stunning navy abaya for meetings in more conservative settings. "The Sheikh is progressive," Caroline explained over coffee, while Maya tried on her 10th outfit, but many of his business partners are traditional. You'll need to be able to adapt to different cultural contexts seamlessly. Maya learned quickly that working for Sheikh Khalid meant operating at a level of luxury she'd never imagined. The company credit card Caroline had provided seemed to have no limit. When Maya hesitated over a $1,500 blazer, the personal shopper, a chic woman named Gabrielle, simply smiled and said, "Miss Richardson, you're about to represent a multi-billion-dollar company. This blazer is an investment, not an expense." On Wednesday afternoon, Maya met with her roommates to pack up her belongings. They'd already found someone to take over her portion of the lease, a nursing student friend of Priya's who needed a place immediately. The apartment that had felt like home for 2 years suddenly seemed small and shabby, though Maya felt a pang of nostalgia as she folded her clothes into the new designer luggage Caroline had arranged to be delivered. "I still can't believe this is happening," Priya said, helping Maya pack books into storage boxes. "Monday you were serving tables. Thursday you're flying first class to Abu Dhabi with a billionaire." "Business class," Maya corrected, though even that felt impossibly luxurious. She'd never flown anything but economy, usually in the middle seat. Deshawn emerged from the kitchen carrying takeout boxes from the Thai place down the street. "Last dinner together before you become rich and famous and forget all about us little people," he joked, though his eyes were suspiciously bright. They ate pad thai and spring rolls sitting on the floor surrounded by moving boxes, reminiscing about the past 2 years. The time the radiator burst and they'd huddled together under every blanket they owned. The night they'd all stayed up until 4 a.m., helping Priya study for her nursing boards. The countless evenings Maya had practiced Arabic pronunciation while Deshawn and Priya pretended to be her students. "You're going to be amazing," Priya said finally, raising her water glass in a toast. To Maya Richardson, who proved that knowing Arabic and having courage can literally change your life overnight. "To Maya," Deshawn echoed, clinking his glass against theirs. "Don't forget to send postcards from your fancy hotel." That night, alone in her loft space for the last time, Maya lay awake staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow morning, her mother was driving up from Columbus to take her to JFK Airport, refusing to let Maya take a cab to such an important moment. In less than 12 hours, she'd board a plane to the Middle East with a man she barely knew, trusting that the instinct that had made her answer that phone call was leading her in the right direction. Her phone buzzed with a text from Sheikh Khalid. "Looking forward to working with you, Miss Richardson. Bring your passport and your courage. We have work to do." Maya smiled in the darkness and typed back, "Ready, sir. See you at 7 a.m. Thursday morning arrived with typical New York chaos. Maya's mother, Linda Richardson, pulled up in her aging Honda Civic at 5 a.m., having driven through the night. She wrapped Maya in a fierce hug the moment she stepped outside, tears streaming down her face. "My baby girl," Linda whispered, "I'm so proud of you." "Your father would be so proud." They made the drive to JFK mostly in silence, Linda occasionally reaching over to squeeze Maya's hand. At the international terminal, they found Sheikh Khalid waiting near the Emirates Airlines first-class check-in counter, looking impeccable in a tailored grey suit. His assistant stood beside him with a tablet, reviewing what looked like schedules. Sheikh Khalid's expression softened when he saw Maya approach with her mother. He stepped forward, extending his hand to Linda. "Mrs. Richardson, I presume? I'm Sheikh Khalid al-Mansouri. Your daughter saved my life's work 3 days ago. I promise you, I will treat her with the utmost respect and ensure her safety at all times." Linda studied him with the sharp eyes of a mother assessing her daughter's employer. Whatever she saw must have satisfied her, because she nodded slowly. "You take care of my girl, Sheikh Khalid. She's special." "This I have learned," he replied with a gentle smile. The goodbyes were tearful but brief. Linda hugged Maya one more time, whispered something about staying true to herself, and then watched from the terminal as Maya checked in for her first international flight. As they passed through security and headed toward the Emirates lounge, Sheikh Khalid glanced at Maya. "Ready for this adventure?" Maya thought about the tiny apartment in Queens, the double shifts at the Meridian, the years of studying Arabic late into the night, wondering if it would ever matter. She thought about that phone call, about choosing courage over silence. "Yes, sir," she said firmly. "I'm ready." The future, uncertain and thrilling, stretched out before her like the runway outside the terminal windows. Maya stood on the balcony of the Burj Khalifa, watching the Dubai skyline shimmer in the golden hour light. Behind her, through the floor-to-ceiling windows of the luxury suite that Al Mansouri International Holdings maintained for visiting executives, she could hear Sheikh Khalid wrapping up a conference call with investors in London. In Arabic, naturally. But now, after a year of working together, she didn't need to translate his every word. She understood the rhythm of his business, the nuances of his negotiating style, the delicate balance of respect and firmness that made him so successful. The past 12 months had been extraordinary. That first trip to Abu Dhabi had set the tone. High-stakes meetings where her translations could make or break multi-million-dollar deals, cultural negotiations where one wrong word could offend powerful partners, and moments where Sheikh Khalid's trust in her judgment had proven to be well-founded time and time again. She translated for discussions with Egyptian hotel developers, Emirati government officials, Saudi tech investors, and Jordanian real estate magnates. She'd learned to navigate the complex web of Middle Eastern business culture, where a handshake meant more than a contract and where tea service had its own intricate protocol. She'd made mistakes, plenty of them, but Sheikh Khalid had been patient, treating each error as a learning opportunity rather than a failure. "Miss Richardson," Sheikh Khalid called from inside the suite, "could you join me for a moment?" Maya turned from the balcony and entered the elegant living area. The sheikh sat in one of the leather chairs, his tablet set aside, a thoughtful expression on his face. "I've been reviewing the year-end performance reports," he began, "and I wanted to discuss your bonus." Maya's heart skipped. She'd worked harder this year than ever before in her life, but she never quite knew where she stood with the sheikh. He was generous but exacting, warm but professional. "You've exceeded every expectation I had when I hired you," he continued. "Your translations have been flawless. Your cultural insights have prevented several potentially disastrous misunderstandings. Your discretion and integrity have been absolute. Therefore, I'm approving a performance bonus of $50,000, effective immediately." Maya felt her knees go weak. $50,000. Combined with her salary, she'd made $140,000 this year. She'd paid off half her student loans, sent Jason enough money to cover an entire semester of medical school, and helped her mother finally fix the roof on the house in Columbus. "Thank you, sir," she managed, her voice thick with emotion. "I don't know what to say." "You could say you'll continue working for me," he replied with a slight smile. "I'm also promoting you to Senior Cultural Liaison and increasing your base salary to $110,000 annually. You've earned it, Miss Richardson." That evening, after Sheikh Khalid had retired to his own suite, Maya video-called her mother and brother. Jason appeared on the screen wearing scrubs, having just finished a clinical rotation. Linda sat beside him in the kitchen of their Columbus home, the same kitchen where Maya had eaten countless meals growing up. "The promotion came through," Maya announced, unable to keep the smile off her face. Her mother burst into tears of joy. Jason let out a whoop that probably woke up half his dorm building. They talked for over an hour, Maya sharing stories from her latest trip to Cairo, Jason updating her on his progress toward medical school, Linda proudly reporting that she'd finally been able to paint the house thanks to Maya's help. After the call ended, Maya sat on her balcony with a cup of Arabic coffee, watching the Dubai fountain dance in the distance. She thought about that night at the Meridian, about standing in that dining room with Sheikh Khalid's phone pressed to her ear, about making the choice to speak up when she could have remained silent. One sentence, one phone call, 60 seconds that had changed everything. She'd learned something profound in that moment. Courage wasn't the absence of fear. It was choosing to act despite the fear, trusting that your skills and your heart would guide you through. She'd spent years wondering if her Arabic degree was worth the debt, worth the sacrifice, worth the late night studying verb conjugations and dialect variations. That one moment had answered every doubt. Maya pulled out her own phone and opened her notes app, typing a message she'd been composing in her head for months. Maybe someday she'd share her story, inspire someone else who was working double shifts and wondering if their dreams were foolish, if their education was wasted, if their moment would ever come. She wrote, "Your moment will come. It might not look like you expect. It might happen when you're exhausted, when you're scared, when you're just trying to survive another shift. But when it arrives, trust yourself. Trust the skills you've worked so hard to build. Trust the courage you didn't know you had, because sometimes all it takes is 60 seconds to change your entire life." And so ends the story of how a waitress from Ohio saved a billionaire's deal and discovered that the most valuable currency in the world isn't money. It's the courage to use your gifts when the moment calls for them. Maya Richardson took a leap of faith, and it transformed her from struggling server to international liaison, from paycheck to paycheck survival to financial security and meaningful work. Thank you for reading. If this story inspired you, please share it with someone who needs to hear that their skills matter, that their moment is coming, and that one act of courage can open doors they never imagined existed. Remember, your voice matters, your education matters, and you never know when 60 seconds might change everything.